Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9. And in this video, I want to talk about the demonic activity that seems to be going on in the film Mountaintop Motel Massacre. And let's start off by saying that a lot of people, the vast majority of people that watch the film, when they watch it, they just view it as a simple slasher film, okay? They're not gonna, look beneath the surface. They're not gonna read between the lines. They're just gonna watch it and they're gonna say, hey, it's a movie about an old lady with a sickle that goes crazy and she slaughters a bunch of her motel guests. Pure and simple. And they're not going to really bother to look deeper than that. And it's a shame because I think some people kind of get the atmosphere and they kind of notice that there's really something different about the movie. Something that really gets under your skin where you go, hey, this isn't like your typical Friday the 13th knockoff. This isn't your typical Psycho ripoff. There's something else to this movie, something that's compelling every act that's committed in the film. And I came to the conclusion a while ago, especially when I was doing that Evil on the Screen documentary. That was really when I solidified my point of view about this. I really think that every killing, every bad, heinous act that's committed in Mountaintop Motel, I think it's all driven by demonic forces. First of all, you see at the beginning of the movie, when Laurie is down, in the underground lair, and she's having that seance. She's got the picture of her dead father looking on. She's got some animal friends around her. And she basically calls out to the other side. She says, I summon thee, spirits from beyond. Well, this movie, Mountaintop Motel, what you have to keep in mind is it really seems to operate within a Christian framework in the way that it views spirits in the other side. You see in one scene where Evelyn is reading from the Bible, and then another part in the movie when she says, away Satan, as she slaughters, the preacher. And one thing that you'll learn if you look at things from a Christian standpoint, they view things such as seances, Ouija boards, things of that ilk, things where you're trying to contact spirits of the dead. They view it in such a way is that if you think that you're reaching out to a dead relative and you are hearing a voice coming to you, you're getting that communication from the other side. The Christian viewpoint is that it isn't really a spirit. It isn't the spirit of a dead person that's passed on. What you're actually talking to is an unclean spirit, a demon, okay? Something that's not human, something that only exists to feed on fear and anguish and pain. All of these evil, chaotic things, that is what you are actually talking to. And I think that that's what is going on in Mountaintop Motel. I think it operates from that framework. So when you see Laurie there at the beginning of the film and she's calling out to the other side, it isn't a human spirit that is talking back to her. Those voices that you hear, that cacophony, all of those, and I told you in Evil on the Screen, I said what they're saying is kill. You can hear it. It really sounds like all of these voices are coming together in a really sick, twisted choir of sorts. And they're all chanting kill over and over again. Well, I believe that what she has summoned, what has come forth, are demons. That is what she is called upon. And like I already mentioned before in other videos, when Evelyn comes downstairs and she's saying, I told you never to do this, and she starts swinging her sickle, the reason Evelyn is upset is because she knows what is going on. She understands that these are demons. These are not forces that you can easily reckon with. These are things that only exist to cause chaos. So, Evelyn flips out and she kills Laurie in her fury as she's twisting around and everything. Now, I want to talk about something a little bit in depth that I've never spoken of before, and that is the pig drawing, that pig cutout that is down there in the underground tunnels. And, it looks really evil on the surface, just looking at the damn thing. I mean, that's not something you'd want to have propped up next to your bed as you go to sleep. I can tell you that right now. And when you look at that, it instantaneously fills you with dread. Well, I've kind of thought a lot about it. And also, a viewer of mine in one video, I remember him saying to me, I remember him commenting, he said, do you think that pig drawing? Do you think that that is supposed to be like the image of the Father? Maybe that's the Father's spirit returning to speak with Laurie, and that's the form that he takes. You know, he looks like that pig. Well, I thought that was an interesting thought, but I'll tell you what, I really think that that pig is the image of a demon that visited Laurie. I think that's why she drew it. I think that one of the demons that she brought into her world looked like that pig. That was the image that he gave to her when he spoke to her. So I think she drew that. And an interesting thing to note about that is, like I've already said, this movie operates from a Christian viewpoint. And one thing the Bible says in the Old Testament is that pigs are an unclean animal, that you shall not eat their flesh, for they are unclean. And if you consume the flesh of a pig, it will make you unclean in turn. And there are other interesting things about pigs, equating them with uncleanliness and demonic activity. Like there's a story later in the New Testament where Jesus actually drives demons out of a man into a herd of pigs, and then the pigs run down into a body of water and they all drown themselves. So I really think that when you look at it from that perspective, it makes sense that the movie would equate that visage of the pig. It would equate that with the demonic activity that is lurking about the grounds of the Mountaintop Motel. Now I want to touch upon that sequence where Evelyn is reading from the Bible and she quotes a passage and she says, "Another angel came out of the temple of heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle."
And another angel came out of the temple of heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle.
And that's a passage from Revelation in the New Testament. And that's a really fascinating thing when Evelyn makes that quote, because what is the sickle? I mean, you see the Grim Reaper. I mean, that famous image, he's carrying around the sickle, carrying around the large scythe, and he's reaping souls. He's cutting people down. Evelyn is basically doing the same thing with her sickle. There are certain sections of the film where she really feels like she is doing the Lord's work. When she's walking around with this sickle, and when she goes up and she kills the preacher, and she quotes, "Away, Satan," which is part of a passage from Matthew, I believe. And they give the full quote in the screenplay, but they cut it short in the film. But anyway, right before she kills that preacher, she says, "Away, Satan." And there are moments like that where Evelyn seems to be operating under the viewpoint as if she is an avenger, as if she is this angel from heaven that is reaping these sinful people.
Evelyn? How'd you get in here?
Away, Satan! No!
You know that this is a place of evil. It is a place where demons are lurking in the shadows. And if you go there and you are of ill mind, if you are not able to fend them off, they will take control of you. And that is what is going on with Evelyn.
The kingdom of heaven isn't someplace up there in the clouds. It's here now in your heart.
If the kingdom of heaven is in my heart, where's the kingdom of hell?
Well, I guess it's there also.
I feel like Laurie is possessed in the film, and this twisted part of what is left of her is forever kind of in purgatory and haunting the grounds there. So she's on the side of the demons that she, unwittingly brought out, because I think in the beginning, I think that Laurie started out just wanting to use a Ouija board to contact her dead father. I think that that's how it began. She was using this board, as a conduit to the other side, and she was doing these seances, and she probably thought that she was speaking with her father at first. But once she opened that portal, once she opened that gateway, all bets were off.
I summon thee. I summon thee.
that is the reason why the Mountaintop Motel, all that lies above and all that lies underground, it's just brimming with wickedness because of what Laurie did, because of opening that doorway. And when Evelyn is walking around with her sickle, when she's mowing these people down, just cutting them down, what she's doing is she is harvesting souls for these demons. And I think that they grow stronger with every person that she cuts down. So that's why they're driving her. That's why they're using Laurie's voice to compel her onward, to get her to do more of this evil bidding. And by the end of the film, when Evelyn slits that guy's throat as he's laying in that bed helpless, I mean, the guy has already been bitten by a snake. He can barely see out of his fucking eyes, and he's just lying there helpless. Helpless. And he watches his wife, his new bride, he watches her get cut down a sickle right through her face. And then after that, the way Evelyn leers at him, and when she comes over to him and basically just mocks him, I think that at that point, Evelyn is no longer even entertaining notions that she is operating for good, okay? I think at this point, Evelyn has just fully turned to the dark side. You can see it in her eyes. You can see it in that evil glare. And she may have mental illness. She may be crazy. But the demonic forces that are swirling all around, she has fully turned over to them, just as Laurie did. Because you can tell in the beginning of the film, when Evelyn killed Laurie, Laurie was already on that side, man. She had already fully turned over to that wicked side. I think by the end of the film, Evelyn is on that side too. She has both feet right in the muck, right in the side of darkness.
No.
Aren't you a mess?
I also want to mention there is a scene in the original screenplay, which I have a copy of, and which very few other people do. I think the only other people that have a copy of the original screenplay would be people that worked on the film, alright? Back in the early 80s. Besides that, I'm the only person that has a copy, my friends, so I can let you in on some secrets every now and then when I'm talking. If you're a big fan of this film, watch my videos on this movie, okay? Because I can share, some good little tidbits here and there about kind of what's operating behind the scenes in this movie, what is compelling certain things. But anyway, back on topic. In the screenplay, you know the sheriff, right? You know how in the film it shows the sheriff and he's sitting at this bar late at night, and it's just him and a female bartender, and he's just having some drinks and just tuning out the world. And that's about it, okay? That's the only kind of thing you get from watching the film. Well, in the original screenplay, he gets up to leave the bar, and when he gets up to leave, okay, a window blind that was pulled all the way down, it rolls itself up, and all of a sudden there's this cold chill in the air. And the sheriff and the bartender, they both feel this chill come upon them, and they feel like a presence is in the room. What it tells me is that these demonic forces, their power had grown so strong at the Mountaintop Motel, so insidious, okay, that the reach that they had reached even beyond that property, that it could expand all the way to this bar somewhere in town that the sheriff was sitting at. So that just tells me that their force had really grown powerful. But unfortunately, this isn't put into the movie. You don't see this in the film. Now, another interesting thing to point out about the evil that is going on at the Mountaintop Motel is the fact that Mountaintop Motel draws parallels to The Exorcist in a very interesting way as well. And I'm not the only one that has noticed this. One of my viewers has also pointed this out as well. But towards the end of the movie, when Evelyn is in the secret chamber, when she's looking at Laurie's drawings and kind of coming undone, so to speak, there are flashes of Laurie. standing in a really pallid form. She's wearing her funeral dress, and she's looking rather unearthly and wicked, shall we say. And anyway, these flashes are almost subliminal, okay? When it flashes, when Laurie is flashing there like that in those quick cuts, it's very similar to the way The Exorcist does those quick cuts of Pazuzu, right? And the parallels are blatantly obvious. In The Exorcist, you have a girl that is possessed. And in Mountaintop Motel, what we seem to have is just a whole plot of land. The Mountaintop Motel itself, it is possessed by demonic forces.
I wonder who Laurie is.
I want to talk about the original ending to Mountaintop Motel Massacre. Now, if you wanted to watch the original ending to Mountaintop Motel in the comfort of your own home, the only way you'd be able to do it is if you had tapes like this. These are releases from before New World Pictures started distributing the film. New World Pictures started distributing the film in the USA in 1986. So these are tapes that were released before that. So they just have the original ending. You'd have to have a tape like this, or like this one, okay? Or my favorite, like this one, the Australian release. I just love the cover on this Australian release of the film. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about the original ending and my thoughts on it. In the original ending to Mountaintop Motel, we're talking pre-1986, the sheriff is down there in the underground tunnels and he finds, those bodies. He comes upon the corpse of Prissy and the dead body of the Reverend Bill McWillie. Evelyn comes up behind him. She sneaks up behind him. And right as she lifts up her sickle, she begins to charge towards him. And it's obvious that she's gonna cut him down just like she's cut everyone else down. And the sheriff, he turns around real quick and he shoots her. Simple as that. And she lays on the ground and she's dead. And that's really it in a nutshell. That's how Evelyn meets her demise in the original ending of the film. Now, what I like about this is the subtle horror of it. It's understated. I like the creepiness of that, the fact that it plays out in a way that's not overstated. It's not razzle-dazzle. It's not in your face. So I like that. There's this sneaking creepiness about it that kind of sends chills up your spine as the sheriff is just looking down at Evelyn laying there dead. Something about it fits in with the morbid atmosphere of the movie. I really kind of like that. Now, the sad thing about this original cut is, funny enough, when they go to leave, you don't see Laurie walking in the woods anymore. And also, even before that, when they're pulling away from that tree, it still shows them look over as if they are supposed to be seeing something. But you don't see anything in this original cut. And that drives me crazy because I'll tell you right now, Drew Edward Hunter, the production designer on this film, the guy that drew all the illustrations, he decorated the sets, did the special makeup effects. The amount of work that this man did for this movie, it's just next level stuff. It's just like the music to this film, how the composer that did the music to this film, Ron DeLio, it's those magical elements that lift the movie and send it to the tier that I hold it upon. But anyway, Drew Edward Hunter has sent me scans of many different photographs from when they were making the film. And funny enough, one of the ideas that they originally had for the end of the film was for Evelyn, her husband, and Lori to all return, to all be there in spirit form, standing out there in the forest, standing out there in the woods, on the grounds of the Mountaintop Motel. And I believe, based on what I've learned from, talking privately with Drew Edward Hunter, he has told me that on the set of the film, the McCulloughs, Jim Sr. and Jim Jr., he said that they would argue back and forth about how much of the supernatural to play up in this film. Should it be a straight slasher, or should it have more of the ghostly type stuff going on? And they would argue back and forth about this. I guess all throughout the shooting, they would go back and forth arguing about how much of the supernatural aspects should be in the movie, whether it should be a gory, violent slasher movie, or should we put more of the ghostly elements in? And these kind of arguments would just go on back and forth all throughout the shooting of the film. And it explains why this stuff is so chaotic and it's not on the surface of the movie, even though we know that it's there. During the original 1983 shooting, for instance, they definitely filmed shots of Lori standing there in ghostly form, in her funeral dress, and looking pale, and looking like she just crept out of a crypt somewhere. But anyway, New World Pictures clearly chose to market this movie as just a slasher flick. And likewise, a lot of people over the years have sat down to watch Mountaintop Motel Massacre, and they just don't get the film. I'm not trying to sound like some elitist, about this. I'm just telling the truth. I've noticed over the years, some people get Mountaintop Motel, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people sit down and they think, I'm going to watch a slasher movie. I'm going to watch a body count movie. I'm watching this movie for gore. If you're sitting down to watch Mountaintop Motel Massacre with that kind of frame of mind, you're coming at the movie from the wrong angle. The proper way to enjoy Mountaintop Motel Massacre is to sit down and let the ambiance, to let the atmosphere wash over you. Try to let the things that are going on beneath the surface, try to let those things kind of creep up on you, because let me tell you, they do. If you watch this movie in the right framework, with the lights out, just listen to the music, pick up on little bits of sound, things that are going on that are kind of embedded in the audio of the film, and just let that atmosphere, it's so rich and so sinister, let it wrap around you. Let me tell you, you'll come out with a different opinion of the film. Don't watch it like it's your standard run-of-the-mill slasher movie. You can't watch this movie that way because it's so much more than that. If you have a love of atmosphere in horror films, then you can't go wrong with Mountaintop Motel. You just can't, my friend. The atmosphere is so dense. And it's so inviting, even though it's sinister and repellent, there's something about it that just keeps drawing me back over the years. And I think that's because when I watched it as a kid, it utterly traumatized me. And the reason why it did, I've thought a lot about this, and I've made other videos about how this movie really traumatized me. I think the reason it did is because the environment I grew up in was very similar. I didn't grow up in a city. I grew up out in the country. I grew up in places where you go outside and it's trees and it's hills. So I kind of felt like this is something that could be right down the street from me. That's kind of always how I felt about the Mountaintop Motel. I felt like it was a place that could, reside not far from where I lived. So that's why it really hit home to me. Just the surroundings of it, everything felt like, even though I was sitting in front of a TV screen, it felt like I was watching something that was really happening. It felt immediate to me. And then compounding that element, the element of immediacy, the element of that this movie is reaching out to me. I almost felt like Evelyn could come out of the TV. When I was watching this movie 3-4 years old, it just felt so real. And I've never lost that feeling about this movie. And that's not the same as watching a movie like Jaws and saying you were traumatized by Jaws or something like that. There's something so much more about this. With Jaws, don't go in the fucking ocean. It's as simple as that. You're scared of a shark, you're traumatized by watching Jaws. Don't go in the goddamn ocean. There's something different about Mountaintop Motel, okay? Because it's an element here on the damn ground. The scary things that are going on in this movie, the forces that are kind of hidden, all the stuff that's going on that you can't really see that's compelling Evelyn, all of that kind of fear and evil, that just seems so much more immediate and real. When I talk about feeling kind of traumatized about a movie, I'm serious. This movie really scarred me and gave me a lot of unrest and just feeling unease and feeling anxious when I'd watch it or think about it for many years as I grew up. Also, I lived with my grandma when I saw this. She was the one who taped it for me, and I'll tell you what, my grandma didn't look too much different than what Evelyn looked like. Not to mention, I'd also seen my grandmother, chopping down weeds in a garden in the backyard with a sickle. Man, there's something about this movie that just kind of fills me with anxiety, even to this very day, even though it's enticing to me, even though it's interesting. And I think that's the reason it is. It's because of all the fear and unease that it's caused in me over the years. I think what makes Mountaintop Motel so interesting is that you're watching it expecting to see a slasher movie. You're expecting to see a Friday the 13th derivative movie or a Psycho ripoff, something that has a lot in common with that type of thing, but you watch it and instead you get all these embedded messages in the film. You get all of this kind of evil stuff going on, stuff with what I've drawn the conclusion, it's demonic activity in the movie, okay? That is what makes this movie so unique amongst horror films. Other horror films, they are what they are. Alright, you watch The Exorcist, you know that's a possession movie. You watch Reanimator, you know what that is. You watch Return of the Living Dead, you know what that is. A Fulci flick, Sleepaway Camp, etc., etc. You know what all those movies are. Mountaintop Motel is just different because the filmmakers didn't know which route they wanted to go. And in effect, because of that, they shot this movie that is different than all other, slasher type films. It's a movie where there are elements that are broken up and immersed in the film, ingrained in it, that just take you to another place. And that is something that is truly unique about this film. It should be just a simple slasher film, but it isn't. It gives you so much more if you care to pay attention.
Daddy, I've got to talk to you. It's Mama. She's getting sick again. Thinks she needs to go back to the hospital. But she told me if I ever mentioned it again, she was gonna get me. Talk to me, Daddy.
So anyway, enough of my rambling. Maybe you should go put Mountaintop Motel on again and give it another watch. Leave me a comment in the comment section and tell me what you think of what I've spoken about in this video. And I'll be seeing you guys again.